Hello, everyone. Welcome to SoundPlex Studios. We're in Recording Studio A, and I'm with a special guest, Alan Brooks, today. But before I start talking to him, I want to show you this wall that Alan designed with his artwork about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. He's one of the first artists I met, and I met him in a local town nearby called Collage, which I live in, and there was an art and festival, and I met him in a booth. I really liked his stuff. I said, wow, this would be really nice in my space. So he went over and above and came into the building, saw the wall that I wanted to put all his artwork, and he designed this theme. So take a look at that. So how'd you like that wall? That was something special, wasn't it? And here's the guy right here. His name's Alan Brooks. He's local. He lives in Berlin, New Jersey, correct?
Yes.
And I see him all the time. He's always calling me, always bugging me about something. But he's a great guy. I've known him now for 2 years. And his wife's here in the audience, and we'll talk to her later on in the broadcast. But Alan's got a fascinating story because he worked in the graphic art field. He's always been a creative, ever since he was probably a little boy, because from what I understand, there was a little comic nature in him as well. But I'm going to let Alan introduce himself and tell us a little bit about his history and what kind of brought him into the art world. And then we'll kind of even showcase some of his artwork here today. But everything's available here for sale at SoundPlex Studios. So the next time you come in, take a look at his wall, and we'll have some price lists for you as well. So there might be some different things, different ways that you can kind of use this type of art, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the podcast. But Alan, give me a little introduction on you.
Well, I just wanted to
lifestyle.
also say, if you buy 12 of these pieces, there's a baker's dozen. You get an extra one, 13.
Now he tells me I would have bought 36 pieces, and I would have had a full wall, and I wouldn't even have to talk to him today.
That's right.
But Alan, tell us a little about yourself. I know you're a comic, so if you want to be funny, that's
All
fine,
right.
because
All right.
we can do some comedy here, because I have a comedic nature as well.
Yes, yes, you do.
And I got some funny things to talk about too. So give us a background on your history.
So regarding the artwork, I've always loved art. As a kid, my parents recognized it. They helped me foster that whole interest of drawing and painting and doing artwork. But from there, I ended up going to School of Visual Arts in New York and studied graphic design for 4 years. And after school, I got a great job at CBS Television, where I was doing on-air graphics for different shows that many of it was like doing a logo or title design. And at 22, 23 years old, it was a terrific job. It was great.
And you worked in the city.
I worked in the city.
That's cool.
It's cool. And right after CBS, I went to Showtime Entertainment. And back in its infancy, this was 1980, I was actually the art department. There was nobody else but me. And I was doing that for maybe 6 months or so. And then I started to build a staff. But after about a year, I got tired of the whole corporate scene, and my boss really, how people say your boss is an idiot? My boss really was an idiot, and he was taking me down with him for a lot of the things he was doing. So I had $3,000 in the bank at 23 years old, and I thought, this is a fortune. I'm going to just cruise for the summer and not work. Well, 2 days after quitting Showtime, I said, I can't just cruise, I have to work. So I started to freelance from my apartment in New York, and I cultivated a lot of the clients from that TV industry that I was working in, and ended up doing a lot of work for all the different networks, the cable networks, promoting different shows. It was great. I loved doing that kind of work.
So wait, you started your own firm? Like it was a creative
You know what?
firm?
At that time, it wasn't that I made a decision to start a business.
Right.
It was that I didn't want to work for a company anymore, so I just freelanced out of my apartment, and that evolved into a business where I had a small staff, and it was like a real company.
Right. Do I recall, not to change the subject, but we did have dinner one night. Didn't you guys go to Studio 54 Did we had a discussion about that, didn't we?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I knew that because it just came to me when you were talking about New York, because I know we had dinner, my wife and I, with you and your wife, and we had a great time. But you had talked about Studio 54 because I just read about that the other day. I don't know where I saw it, but it was an interesting story where they operated for 3 years. They had cash sitting in the
Oh,
walls.
yeah, yeah.
They were killing it. But you were there. I mean,
I was there.
that's crazy. And how old were you when you went to Studio 54?
I was probably
remember?
25.
Okay. Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I lived in New York in my 20s in the 80s, which was a crazy time in New York, and we just took advantage of everything I could take advantage of in New York until
Including the women.
Well, yeah, you know, you got to pick some of those now and then.
That was a time when what's his name? The big artist,
Andy Warhol.
Andy Warhol was buzzing around, and
Oh
he
yeah,
kind
he was a big part of it.
yeah, he introduced that whole Soho area where now all of a sudden that became like a hotbed for creatives, and creatives always kind of are the foundation of any civilization, you know, and it was almost like a micro civilization where they had started there, and that's kind of how all that spawned into Studio 54, and then all these famous people, including the Brooks, would hang out there.
That's right.
Enjoy each other's company. And that was a freewheeling time. So, and that could be a whole nother podcast, Alan, because, you know, I'm sure you got some really dark stories you'd like to tell me, but we can't do that on this one. You know,
They're very dark.
So tell us about your art. You know, you could have done anything. You could have painted, you could have done digital art, you could have done watercolor. You chose this mixed medium type art. Why this type of art? What was the foundation for your thought process in regards to introducing this type of art as really your go-to
Yeah,
framework?
That's a great question, George. And I've thought about that in the past. And a lot of it is I've always been attracted to very busy design work, and where there's a lot of things and hidden imagery or meaning. And it's always appealed to me. So after 40 years of doing graphic design work, I started to slow down from that. And I've always romanced the idea of getting back to doing actual artwork. But I'm not someone who would draw or paint per se.
Right.
I love taking imagery and assembling it to create a more meaningful piece as a whole. And the vintage aspect of it, I'm not sure why that appeals to me, but I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and I think it's looking back at a more favorable time, or you know, a time that was
Even more dynamic.
yeah, whatever you want to call it. But I think that's it. It gave me comfort
Yeah.
to use those type of vintage imagery of 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah, because there was a lot more imagery, like, you know, even like when it comes to music, an actual ticket, you know, a paper ticket, or a news
Exactly.
article. Like, how many people read a newspaper today?
Right.
Hardly anybody, but those were great articles and clips that you put as part of your artwork, and even just sentimental things that people might do from like a family heirloom or something that was kind of vintage, that was historical,
Right.
and they make it part
You know,
of
in the
artwork.
past, you got, like you said, you got tickets, you got
Yeah.
you got paper receipts, you have artifacts that have certain significance that you can just include in something that automatically brings you back to an earlier time.
Yeah. And you brought some stuff here today, which I want to go through because it'll give people a good perspective on what the art is and how it's done. But I have them right here. I got a few pieces. And one, I want to start with this small one here.
Okay.
This is great. This is about, I would say, 10 inches by 8 inches. But it tells a story. And folks, as you know, and most of you know me, I'm a storyteller, you know, and I tell a story with this building in a number of different studios. But I liked Alan's art because that's what it told me. I mean, when I see this, it's telling a story about a specific car, but there's also all these other artifacts down here. So tell us a little bit about this piece, Alan, and how do you come about and who's it for?
Yeah, I wanted to show this piece because it's an example of I saw an image or an object, which happens to be this 1969 Volkswagen Beetle
Great vehicle.
that my buddy and neighbor owns. So I was inspired to create a piece of artwork featuring that car, but along with it, I put a lot of things that pertain to my friend. His dog's name is Archie, so we have the Archie comic here. We have he plays pickleball. We have pickleball down here, and we have some other things that are of interest to him. There's a Playboy model here because why wouldn't you want a Playboy model in artwork?
Of course, this should be in every painting.
Right. So this is an example of finding an image and having that inspire another whole piece of artwork.
Yeah, that's great. And I think people, you got to take note of this because when you're buying a gift, or maybe if you're doing something for yourself, everyone has a story like this. Maybe there's an item that you purchased back in the day, or you bought an old house and you fixed it up. You can tell a story in this fashion that's kind of cool that you can then put on a wall and always remember, because just you describing this, there was 5 or 6 items on here that kind of are part of the story behind your friend who had this Volkswagen Bug, which is an awesome car. So I like this. This is great. And this is a great gift to give someone because now you can get all this information and give it to Alan and he puts this together for you. So you brought this second piece, which is kind of cool too. So tell us a little bit about this. And this is an important part of everyone's life when they have a son or a daughter. So tell us about this piece.
This is my son, and this is my grandson after he was just born. And for Father's Day last year, I created this piece. It says, "The only thing better than being your father, is watching you become a dad." And this has other imagery that pertains to him, his wife, his home, his dog, where the baby was born, the announcement. So this is a good example of taking an occasion and creating a story to commemorate it.
That's great. I mean, everyone should have something like this at the birth of their child or the birth of their grandchild. This is special because it tells a story in such a small footprint too. This is what, maybe 12 inches by 16?
Yeah, I think you got it right.
And it's got a nice wood frame. This hangs on the wall, and you can put it next to other things that are meaningful to you, but there's nothing more meaningful than the birth of a child or a grandchild. And he really does it in a nice, soft, warm way that can be very appealing to just about anyone. So keep this in mind when you're looking to kind of buy something special. Alan Brooks is the guy to go to, and you can get to him via SoundPlex Studios, and we'll also provide some other materials that you can kind of contact Alan in regards to any type of custom work, because you do a lot of custom work.
I do a lot of custom work. It could be for retirement, a birthday party, an anniversary. I've done countless amounts of these pieces, and to be honest, I find it to be the most welcome challenge I can get is to find out about the occasion, the person that's being honored, and filter in all these little artifacts that are pertinent to them.
Yeah, this is great. This is a great idea, and I love it. And that's what I think drew me to your booth when I saw all this mixed media. And I even said to you, I was like, people like have retirement dinners there. And my father was always a collector of little things. I mean, you go into his drawer and there was all this stuff. And a lot of it was just paper, And to put all that stuff together in a meaningful way that kind of gives you a really cool picture of what this person's all about is something special. So Alan, this is kudos to this project. This was awesome. Did you charge your son anything for this, or did you just give it to him?
I gave it to him at cost.
What a special guy he is. Now, this is interesting. Now, when I first looked at this, I said, okay, well, that's simple. There is some text behind, but this is meaningful because it's that time of year where we've just celebrated Passover and Easter. But Alan, tell us a little bit about this type of artwork and why it could be meaningful for a number of people.
Sure. There's a term for Jewish artwork and artifacts, which is Judaica, and this falls in that category. What I'm showing here are 3 different mezuzahs, and for those that don't know, a mezuzah is what Jewish homes have on their door frames as you come into the house. It is supposed to protect the home, and there's the scroll of the Torah inside these mezuzahs, and they're really about this big.
That's
So,
interesting. So wait, I
so-
can put this up on my doorway and it'll protect my home?
well, I don't know if the whole picture will. You might need just the mezuzah itself, but we can give it a try.
Are the colors meaningful?
The colors are not specific to any one thing. I just wanted it to be bright and lively because it's a celebration of the Jewish culture.
Right. Okay. Now, before we go and show a number of other things that we've had on display, which will showcase, this artwork that you do is very personal.
Yes.
Okay. And that has to touch you in a way that's different than I think any other artwork that anyone would create. Because I know art is very personal to the artist, and it's their expression, it's their consciousness expressing themselves. Okay. But you're actually reaching into someone's life, okay,
Yeah.
and expressing themselves along with you. So what does that mean to you personally? That's the type of work that you're doing. It's got to be very rewarding.
It is. And what's interesting is, as a graphic designer, I'm solving problems or marketing challenges that the client has that they come to me to try to solve through graphic design and artwork. So if they need to promote a certain product or a certain event, they need a certain way to do it. And that's where I would come in and I would find out everything I can about what they're trying to promote, what's their goal, what do they hope to accomplish. And from that, I will create something that I think will resonate with who they're trying to speak to. It's very similar to when I do this custom artwork as well, because the customer is now my client.
Yep.
And I'm trying to tell a story and showcase something for them or for someone that they want to give this to. And I find that very rewarding to research and fully understand some of these things about that person or the event and find a very unique and creative way to express it that's not typical.
Yep.
And
that's great because your stuff's not typical. Yeah.
I would hope not.
Yeah. And what just occurred to me is that I've had a few events here where one was a 30th birthday party, anniversary parties, et cetera, but converting even your son's this to the back of a shirt would be awesome,
Yeah, absolutely.
Because how many times do you go to an event and you're always looking at people's shirts, okay? I'm waiting in line at the beer line and I see at the back of this guy's shirt. I go, well, that's kind of cool. Now, if someone sees this, they'll look at this and say, wow, that's cool, And I think, not to say, hey, let's make a bunch of T-shirts, but I think T-shirts are very personable. You're doing personal art. And if we put some, I got guys that can make T-shirts, we can do some of this stuff. And you don't have to do a big 1,000 shirts, but more like just a family. Like, hey, for my family, I want to print out 10 of these shirts and do a really good job with it. And then that's something that's personal to you because I'm not going to buy this shirt, obviously. I mean, I got nothing against your son, but why would I wear this shirt? Okay.
Right.
Now,
unless he's really your son.
Right. Exactly. Now that might be worth my while,
Heather,
obviously.
something I should know about?
Or if you had a picture of her in a bikini on the beach, I would probably wear that shirt.
All right.
I mean, something along those lines, but just some food for thought. Okay, so let's do this. Now, Alan, I have a bunch of artwork that is on the wall that I brought down just to kind of showcase. I'm going to flip through it up here on the easel, and we're going to just talk briefly about each one because I want to give people a really close look at some of the musically themed artwork, and we'll do that right now. So you might want to add something about this artwork. Obviously, Everyone knows who this is. Bruce Springsteen. This is one of our bigger pieces. So if you want to stand up, just don't block the camera. This is a large piece. This is maybe 24 by 36.
Look at you. He's like a walking
Yep.
measuring tape.
Analytics. It's all about analytics. But this week we got Bruce Springsteen. We got a picture of a ticket, August 13th, 1975. This was at the Bottom Line in New York City. I remember in college when I was at Glassboro, I had a buddy that took me to the Fast Lane in Asbury Park, and that's where he used to hang out, Stone Pony, and those places are really starting, not that particular place, but the Stone Pony's still there,
Stone Pony.
Which is kind of cool. So if you're a fan of Bruce Springsteen, this would be a great piece of artwork that you would put in your family room or even your office or something along those lines, but it's a nice big piece. And what's special about his artwork, it's all put on wood. Okay, so you got a nice 2-inch lumber there.
Yes, exactly.
This is durable. He wires it real well. This is built real well. This is forever. This artwork is forever. And if anyone was to get dusty, you could just wipe this with just
wipe it down. If you nick it, it won't hurt it because it's just going to add to the character of the piece.
Exactly. So let's see. We got another piece here, and Jerry Garcia.
There he is.
Look at that. This is the piece that I bought from Alan. Okay.
George is the owner.
There it is. I'm the owner of this place, and I own this piece because Grateful Dead is always something I'll always remember because it was the first time I experimented with some things that really opened my eyes to music and the glory of how great these guys were. You know, you have the Grateful Dead printed here, very psychedelic in multiple colors. You got the old school band, and you even have, this is cool that you have some of the charts, some of the musical
music
charts.
sheet for trucking.
Yep.
We've got an old ticket, little logo of theirs, little phrase from What a Long Strange Trip It's Been.
You got that right.
And you have Jerry there. Again, I use the word vintage because this is at the start of the Grateful Dead's career and the start of many of these musical groups that I did.
Yep, that's back in the day. And that's why the 70s, like you said earlier, that was a very dynamic time. That was when the best music, 60s and 70s was when the best music was coming out. And all these bands were very different from one another. It wasn't like cookie cutter.
Right.
It was all very different, and you can tell a story about each and every one of them. And then we'll get into the other theme of his artwork. And I kind of brought this up to Alan today, that people fall in love with real estate, you know, and I fell in love with this building just early on. And now I've created this complex that people love.
Still want to do a piece of art of how this came to be.
Exactly. We want to do that because I have some old shots. So, folks, you're going to see the Soundplex in this type of artwork, and it'll probably have to be 8 feet by 16 feet. Do you do them in that size?
I do.
Maybe
I do them in 2-inch squares and then assemble it.
That's perfect. Maybe I just put it all on a wall itself. But this is cool. This is Asbury Park. Now, Asbury Park went some pretty famous times, and then it kind of had some falling out. But now it's a very hot town. And this is the convention center or the music hall.
Yes. That
I think is on the promenade that they're trying to figure out what to do with. But obviously you got Bruce Springsteen, you got a number of different things down here, the boardwalk, et cetera. So a lot of people who own second homes down at the shore, whether it's in Ocean City, Stone Harbor, Sea Isle, Wildwood, Cape May, think about this, because I gave one of these pieces to my friends, the one Wildwood. I bought that because they allow us to share their homes with them during the summer. And I bought that for them because it's a great shot of the doo-wop theme of Wildwood. And this is kind of how you told that story. And Wildwood's kind of a cool vintage type of town. So, folks, think about this when you're buying a house or you had an old house. Talk to us about maybe putting something like this together for that.
I've done a number of pieces for just about every shore town in New Jersey for people that either had a house there or their parents had a house there and they wanted to celebrate it.
Enough said. The Rolling Stones, the greatest rock and roll band ever. This is old school, my friends. Yeah, this is back in the days. This is like mid-'60s.
Yeah, that's really early Stones.
This is really cool. I love this one. And Alan's going to give me this one after today because of all this time I've spent with him.
It's the only way I can get this podcast made.
And what's cool about this, he has all the tickets on what do you call this part of the picture?
The edge.
the edge of the thing. He's got all these tickets on all the edges. That's cool. No one is doing this type of artwork. And we have him here at SoundPlex Studios, Alan Brooks. He's a freaking genius.
Exclusive to George.
And we all love the Doors. And this just goes to show you how different the bands were back in those days. I mean, if I was an artist, if I was your age, what, 5 years older than me, I would have been doing something like this, because having the knowledge of these guys back in the day with the Stones, the Beatles, the Grateful Dead, this is awesome. And, you know, this stuff should be flying off the shelves, and even something like this as a shirt, because there's still a lot of fans of the Doors, and a lot of these old bands influence some of the new music today, which is okay, but people still listen to this stuff because it's still the greatest music ever, you know, that was made back in the mid-60s. So here's another piece, and this is a complete square, so this is a 2x2 square. So whatever your wall size, he has a piece for that. And when you do custom work, you can get an idea of what size they want even before you put the piece together.
Yep.
Oh, and then, you know, the chairman of the board, Frank Sinatra. Who doesn't like Frank Sinatra? And this is cool because it's got a blue tint to it. It's got the Rat Pack, no cooler group than the Rat Pack.
Hoboken, where he was from.
Yep. Oh, and look, Victor.
Victor, there it is.
Victor was a tenant here, Victor Records.
That's right.
That's cool. Yeah, I just noticed that. That's awesome.
There's another one you have to buy.
Yeah, another one I got to, Alan's going to donate this one to the SoundPlex. I'm getting so much artwork today.
Yeah.
And then we always have to end up with the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. And this is, I have a smaller piece that I have downstairs on display, but this is Elvis Presley. And even the colors and the way you design this is so in theme with that time, you know, and this is just great. Girls Going Nuts, obviously the same woman. And then some of these little articles, which is kind of cool as well. But if you're a fan of Elvis Presley, this is something that you want to consider. And I'll tell you something about Alan's pricing, and we ballpark it. So give us a ballpark from the biggest to the smallest.
Yeah.
Something like this, what's this going to run?
This could be $500 or $600.
Okay.
Some of the smaller pieces could be $300 or $400.
Yep. And that's not bad.
No, I don't think it is. I think it's pretty reasonable. And I have a process of doing these custom pieces where I'll have a conversation with you. I will provide a short questionnaire relative to what event or purpose we're doing this.
Yep. That's great.
Yeah.
I love it. So let's sit down for a little bit longer, but and then talk about how we can kind of get in contact with Alan and how we can kind of put something together for folks, because I think, you know, for the local lens, and everyone knows this, we've been doing this for, you know, a few months now, we're trying to put a spotlight on folks that are within the community. I mean, national celebrities, no one cares about them, okay? It's really the people that are local that are meaningful to you, whether it's a business owner, a friend, or just a local bagel shop that you frequent, or even a local artist like Alan that's located in Berlin, New Jersey. You know, sometimes it's hard to realize that these people exist locally, and we want to support them, and especially artists, because they are the foundation of civilization. And what Alan brings to the table, this type of artwork that's customized, but it's based on a theme that resonates with you, whether it's something personal or if it's just a band that you love, you can kind of share that with Alan and he can put something together for you, and you can kind of create almost like a wall of these types of artworks that kind of tell your story and your interests. So how do we go about, like, what's the process? So say someone wants to do something different. How do they go about contacting you? Well, we're going to give all your contact information.
Right. So you can contact me through my website, through what George is going to provide. And
what's the process of, like, so say someone wants to do something different about the birth of their child. So they reach out to you, and you said you provide a questionnaire.
Yeah. So I will have a short conversation with somebody about what this is. Let's say it's somebody's 70th or 80th birthday. What can you possibly get them? You're not going to get them another thing to put in their house. They don't want that. They don't need that. A piece of artwork like this, celebrating a milestone in their life or just their life in general, is a great gift they're going to cherish, and they're going to keep that. It couldn't be more meaningful. So after the conversation about that, I'll provide a short questionnaire about some of their interests, about things that they like or don't like, and I will try to incorporate those interests into the artwork. Um, I I compose it digitally on the computer.
Okay, that's important. So they see it before
They'll see it before I create the actual artwork. So there's always time for changes or additions, and from that point, I create the artwork, and the whole process could take as little as 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, well, that's not bad.
No.
So from start to finish, they're getting a piece within 30 days or a month.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, that's good to know. And your pricing is basically the same for custom art, like anywhere between.
Yeah. You know what? It's a lot of it's based on the size
Right.
because.
And if someone wants to put a million things in there, it's got to be a little.
Yeah, it depends. Like I just did a piece for ourselves where there is a million things in there,
Right.
and it's a big piece, but that's something that, yeah, would probably be a small upcharge.
Okay. But nothing out of the ordinary.
Nah, I'm quite reasonable.
Yes, Alan is very reasonable, and I've known him for almost 2 years now, and everything on that wall is for sale, but he's always willing to work with the buyer. So if it's something that we need to knock off $100 here or there, we're willing to do that. But I think really the crust of what Alan does is that the customization aspect of it, because
Yeah.
everyone's got something unique about them, and it could be an interest, it could be a hobby, it could be music itself. But building a wall with this type of material, with this type of art, really can kind of says a lot about one's home too, because it initiates conversation.
It definitely does, and like George said, the whole conceptual aspect. That's really what I do best. That's what I thrive on, is finding different ways to express an idea creatively.
Yep. And since your wife's here, do you want to share anything about how she helps you? Does she get the paint jar? Does she open the paint jar? Does she?
I have her clean all my brushes. Well,
she does work the booth with you. I saw her work in the booth. Now, she was just sitting down drinking a mint julep or whatever that was, but she is in the booth working. There is going to be an event you're attending that's coming up at Katz JCC in Cherry Hill,
right.
And that is on
May 17th.
May 17th.
There'll be an exhibit. All the work will be for sale.
So we'll make sure we circle that date. We'll put it at the end of our podcast as well. Folks, you're going to see this podcast live. Well, not live, but on our YouTube station. The SoundPlex is our YouTube channel. So we'll be putting this out there probably within a few weeks, but you're not going to know that anyway because it's going to be on YouTube when you see it. But we are going to promote this because we think, Alan, we just need to get the word out on this art because I think it's real special. We love it here. Everyone loves that wall. And now people are going to start loving your art, Alan, because you came in here, you shared some really interpersonal things about how you put this stuff together and why it's meaningful. And I think it's very unique. So I want to thank you for showing up today. I appreciate it. And I look forward to working with you in the future and maybe putting some things together that are specific to the SoundPlex, because I want to share some of those historical shots and even some of those news clips. Well, we could throw a few nudes in there. Maybe we'll put a Playboy bunny in there because that can never hurt.
Or listen, if you need me to strip down, I'm open to it.
Yeah, that'll go viral for sure. But I want to thank you for coming, Alan. It was great talking to you and learning about your art.
Thanks,
and I appreciate
George.
it.
I appreciate you hosting me.
No problem. Great job.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Alan. Thanks, folks.